Hello and welcome back to the Natural Wellness Tips podcast. This is your host, Dr. Jennifer Shah. I am super excited to be here with you guys. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'm sure you've heard that saying before. It's something, there's been many variations of it, right? But that's the idea of like, what do we do when we move forward and we're making progress, we're in flow, we're in momentum, and then we get kind of sidelined or pushed back. And what does that mean to us, how we live our lives, and how can we shape the reaction and response that we have within that, right? So I'm super excited to dive into that topic today. But before we do that, I want to thank you guys for joining in, whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're finding this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. It truly means the world to me. If you haven't connected with me over on Instagram yet, head over Natural Wellness Tips. I love to hear from you guys. I love to hear what you want more of on this podcast, what you've learned so far. Just pop over and say hello. It makes my day when I get those messages. And then lastly, make sure you head over to my website, drjennifershaw.com. You can click on the events to find any of my upcoming events, my chakra healing and essential oils, my No BS Wellness Community membership. The membership, we dive in each month to 1 habit so you can create simple, sustainable, healthy habits moving forward. You get weekly tips, a monthly success download, a monthly Q&A call, bi-monthly yoga classes. You get meditations. There's so much value, guys, in there. And right now it's the intro price of only $22.22. That price is not going to last forever, but if you lock in at that price, you get to keep it at that price. So come on over, join us in the No BS Wellness community. You can find all of that on my website, drjennifershaw.com. But let's dive into our topic. So this idea of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Have you experienced this in your life, right? I know I have. The universe has a way of knocking us down when we're feeling in flow, when things are going well. But I always question kind of, is it the universe or is it really us? Is it our own subconscious mind and thoughts that are pulling us back, right? Is it us self-sabotaging ourselves? Sometimes it's truly life. We lose a job, a death in the family, a child being born, so many different things that can happen, right? But much of the time, it could be our own upper limits. And, I remember reading when I first started my business, The Big Leap. And The Big Leap is a great book by Gay Hendricks where he talks about these set points that we have for ourselves and how when we push up against these set points, we subconsciously trigger ourselves to kind of come back to our status quo, to our comfort zone, right? And it's a really important thing to ask ourselves when these things are happening, kind of, are we the perpetrator of them? Are we the one causing them? Or is it just life? Because this stuff happens, right? Bottom line is growth is erratic. It is not linear. We can map out a perfect plan. We can get ready to check all of the boxes, but we really have no idea what's coming ahead for us. We have no clue. I could have never told you my life would look how it does. If you had even told me that I would be doing what I do for a living right now, 10 years ago, I would have laughed hysterically at you. You never know where you're going, right? And I used to get so fixated, so obsessed on what something had to look like. Maybe it was a relationship, my fitness, friendships, business. In all honesty, looking back, I was controlling. I was trying to control everything to give myself this fallacy of feeling safe. As if really we can ever control anything, right? We can set goals, we can have action plans, we can take the motion, we can make things happen, but truly we have no control over the outcome. The only thing we have control over is whether or not we quit. And I'm not a quitter. I never quit, right? I at some points have to walk away from situations. I struggled for a long time with that concept of quitting around my divorce. like leaving a marriage and getting divorced, I felt like a failure. I felt like a quitter. I felt like I had let that step backwards kind of win. And I learned sometimes that stepping into that darkness and letting go of those things is what we actually need to propel ourselves forward, to grow, to heal, to evolve, to become better people. And I've worked on releasing that guilt and that attachment to the like feeling of failure around my marriage, right? And that was something that was very hard in the beginning, and it's getting easier, but it's definitely it's definitely something that we can probably all look at situations where we're like, God, I wish I had done that different. But at the end of the day, everything we go through is there for us to learn. It's there for us to grow. It's there for us to evolve, right? One of the biggest things I've learned is all of that control was actually getting in my way. It was preventing flow from happening. It was preventing growth from happening. It was preventing me from stepping into my truest, fullest self. It was actually causing me more stress, limiting my steps forward and pushing me in more steps backwards, right? Because if something didn't look exactly how it should, I would take a step back. So instead of just saying, okay, well, this doesn't look exactly how I expected it, but it's still going in the right direction, I'm going to keep moving, right? But it was so stressful. Don't get me wrong. Like I still have goals. I still have action plans. I still have vision boards. I still know what direction I want to go in life. I have goals with my partner. I have business goals. I have personal goals. I have fitness goals. I have family goals. Like I have goals in all areas. And I know in which direction my actions are taking me. I love this quote. I'm not sure who said it. I've seen it a couple of places online, but it goes like this. An arrow can only be shot by pulling it backwards. So when life is dragging you back with difficulties, it means that it's going to launch you into something great. So just focus and keep aiming. So that idea of we can't control necessarily what happens on that path to the target, right? You can only aim in the direction in which you would like to shoot, right? But the arrow might swerve, it might dip, it might shoot high. But if you steady your aim, in the end, it'll hit the target. We hope, at least, right? Shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars, right? It's that idea of shooting is in the direction of where you want to go. And maybe you don't land exactly where you intended to be, but maybe you land close and you land somewhere better than you could have ever even imagined. So if we think about it this way, if someone distracts you or something distracts you when you're about to release that arrow, you turn your body, the arrow can miss the target, right? So when we're reaching for our goals, it's important to keep our focus. It's important to know where we're going. It's important to have a direction. I know so many people that go through life a little aimlessly, right? They set goals and they never really look back at them. They set goals, but they don't create action plans. They set goals, but they try to do everything at once. I know I've done all of these things, right? So it's like, it's knowing that we have to get very intentional about where we're going. So when these steps back happen, we are the ones in control, right? I often see people get stuck in the step back. Life pulls them back a step or two, and negative thoughts, negative habits, negative coping takes over. I have done it a million times myself, and I'm sure I will do it again, right? Even though I'm sitting here talking to you about it right now, like I'm not perfect. These are things I'm learning in my life, things I'm sharing, conversations I'm having. This conversation actually was sparked by a conversation Owen, my partner, and I were having on a drive up to Santa Barbara. Like whenever we're getting into a deep conversation, I make a note in my phone about something that I want to think more on, journal more on, meditate on, and then share on my podcast. And this was one of those topics, right? So it's going to continue to happen to all of us, but it's how we handle it, right? For me, in the past, the negative thought patterns would run wild in my head when I had those steps back. They still do at times, right? And I just now have tools that I use to kind of begin to halt them in their steps. But my thoughts would spin. You aren't worthy. You don't deserve success. Who do you think you are? You'll never succeed. When is enough going to be enough? All of these thoughts. And these are really stories that I was told by others that I took ownership of, right? I was told them, I absorbed them, I kept them in my mind's eye, and I was like, yeah, this is my reality. I'm going to keep this. This is my truth now. And really, it wasn't my truth. Our minds prefer or lean to truth or to negative, right? Our minds lean in that negative direction. We tend to have a greater memory for negative situations, thoughts, and feelings over the mediocre, and sometimes even over the good. But, we tend to remember the extremes, and we have a tendency to lean towards the negatives, right? So it's really easy to latch on to these negative thought patterns. It's just honestly the way we're wired. So you can start to think about some of these thoughts and get them out of your head, maybe journal about them, right? Think about some of the things that you tell yourself. And I always ask myself, like, would I call my best friend and tell her these things? No, I would never. I would uplift her, right? So if we can catch ourselves in those negative thought patterns and flip the script and change them to positive thinking. I do that a lot with neuro tools. I don't know if you guys have listened to any neuro tools. If you guys are in network marketing, Deb Erickson is amazing. She does a lot of work around neuro tools for women in network marketing, women in business. And they're just mindset tools that you can listen to. They're binaural beats. So like one ear saying one thing, another ear saying the other thing, and you kind of just listen to them while you're doing life. So when you're getting stuck in those negative thought patterns, you can kind of get yourself out of them. Other things you can do is read affirmations. You can read them out loud. You can read them in your head. You can record yourself saying positive affirmations and listen to those in your mind. You can find positive affirmations on YouTube, but you have to get out of those negative thought patterns. When life kicks you backwards, you have to get out of those negative thought patterns. Maybe you have the negative thought patterns, but you also happen to turn towards alcohol or drugs, or you binge watch TV. You avoid what you really need to do to reach the goal, to accomplish what you want, right? Think about it, truly think about it. When stressful things come your way, what is your usual behavior? I don't want you to judge yourself. I don't want you to feel guilty or ashamed at what you do. I just want you to observe it. I want you to observe and bring these things to awareness. Because it's through awareness that we can make a shift. It's through this awareness that we can make a change, that we can shift how we handle these steps back. Because without this awareness, a shift will never happen. A shift is not going to, we're just not miraculously going to change unless we have awareness about a situation. We do something to change the energy around it and we heal it, right? My partner and I are actually reading a book right now. We read books together, and then we kind of like book club them and have deeper conversations about what we're learning and gleaning from the books. It's really fun. I'm so grateful that he enjoys that as much as I do, right? And in this book, this couple has a very toxic relationship, and what they tend to do is just use the excuse of their love is so powerful, so they don't have to have deeper conversations. So when things step them backwards, they kind of pause, avoid each other, remain celibate, and kind of like wait till the emotions are gone, and then they just move forward without addressing it. And that's often what we do with our bad behaviors, right? We're like, okay, like I'm just going to sit in the bad for a little bit. It's just going to be a little bit. And then you start to feel better, and you never really process what happens in that step backwards. So what's going to keep happening is we're going to keep having those steps backwards, those same exact steps backwards. They might look a little different. They might feel a little different, but they keep happening. over and over and over again, because you are not taking the time to find the awareness around the behaviors, take ownership around the behaviors so that you can make a shift. It's not about judgment. It's not about feeling guilty about these things. It's not about talking badly to yourself. It's genuinely about awareness, because through awareness, we can make changes. We can evolve, we can grow, we can become better people. And that's what it comes down to, is finding that awareness, pausing enough in those bad to see what we turn to choose differently. You might not choose totally differently the first time after you find the awareness, but maybe the awareness happens faster. Maybe there's subtle shifts that compound on one another, right? But we have to start with the awareness. We have to start with pausing, and we have to start with knowing that we are choosing different from here on out, right? So once you have the awareness of some of the things that you do when those negative situations arise, let's start to talk about some of the habits that we can do instead, right? What are some of the things that we can shift? What are some of the things that we can change? I want to share with you some of my favorites. My number one favorite is probably to move my body. I don't want that stagnant or negative energy stuck in my body, so I exercise. This can look different depending on what I'm dealing with. This could be, my negative energy might be really anxiety ridden, really stressful. And in that case, I turn to yoga, I turn to meditation, I turn to walks or hikes. Maybe it's just like frustration. And in that case, I hit the gym, or I dance, or I do like an intense workout. Maybe like to skateboard or surf, right? I lean towards acro yoga, hand balancing, things like that. Like, what brings you joy and helps you get into your body and out of your mind? That's the key. So move your body and find ways in which you can do it so that we can get out of the cycling thoughts and we can get into our physical body. Great way to shift this energy. Another thing I love to do is grab my journal and start to write down all the things that I have succeeded at in life. When we have something bad happen, we tend to look at all of the failures and we forget all of the things that we've succeeded at. This is a little saying that I've always loved, is you have 100% track record of surviving the difficult things, right? If you're here today, if you were listening to this today, you have survived all of the hard things that have come your way. So what have you succeeded at in life? What have you been successful at? Write these things down. When your mind is racing down that negative track, pump the brakes and change the direction and focus on the positive. Another thing to do is think about what you're grateful for in that exact moment. Pause, breathe. When you are most frustrated, what in that moment can bring you joy, peace, gratitude? Shift to that. If you're struggling with finding something, think of a child in your life. Children always bring joy. An animal, God, they'll bring joy, right? Think to things that are innately joyful. Children and animals are innately joyful. Think to those people, those things, and see if you can shift your energy to that gratitude, because we cannot live in gratitude and negative feelings at the same time. We can shift our energy up to that gratitude. Last but definitely not least, I grab my essential oils and I just breathe. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, anxious around this backward direction, I tend to turn to my adaptive. I'll diffuse it or roll it in my hands, put a drop in my hands, and then I'll cup my hands over my nose, and I'll take a few deep breaths with my eyes closed if I can. Take like 3 or 4 deep breaths. Another one I love is neroli at this point. This is just really great for my anxious feelings. I'll take that one and I'll roll it on the outside of my arm and even like over my chest, take a few deep breaths. And then if I just want to feel joyful, if I just want to feel happy, I take my citrus bliss. Same thing. I pop it in the diffuser. I pop a drop in my hand. I rub my hands together and I take 3 to 4 deep belly breaths, really soaking it in. And then I'll just take whatever oils left in my hands. I'll rub it into my neck. I'll rub it into my chest. Essential oils have a direct access to our limbic brain. our limbic system in our brain, they can directly affect our amygdala, our fear center, our emotional center in our brain within 5 to 7 seconds, guys. So powerfully fast. So when you're feeling yourself going down that negative pathway, grab an essential oil that uplifts you. You guys know me. I only use doTERRA. Those are my oils because of the quality. You can always reach out to me with questions about them, but that's one of the fastest ways to do it. So move your body, grab a journal, find gratitude, grab your oils. And yeah, the idea here is to just get out of your mind into your body. Once you do that, you can look back at the situation and begin to create awareness around what unfolded. You can begin to create a plan to change the momentum back into the forward direction. It's not a question of, is life going to knock us backwards? It's really a question of, what are you going to do when that happens? It's in your ability, in your choices to choose different. It might not be perfect, but if it's a little better each time, you're moving in the right direction. If those steps backwards help you redirect, help you glean awareness, usually I find when the universe is pushing me backwards, it's because I need to take a second and pause and reevaluate the path I'm on and see if I've lost track of my target. See if it's pulled me away. See if what I'm doing has pulled me away from my target, right? Bring awareness to what you do, to what you think, to how things go, and see if you can make those subtle shifts a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And then you'll get to a point where in a year, 2 years, 3 years, you're going to look back and say, wow, I handled these situations so differently than I used to. Completely differently than I used to. You'll be blown away. And it's going to be an incredible feeling to get to. So really, when we think about it, guys, we can't fully appreciate the height of the mountain without the valley. You can't have one without the other. We can't have the rainbow without the rain. Like, we have to have these ups and downs. And it's about appreciating the downs so we can like fully thrive and step into the ups, right? I want to close with this quote by young Pablo. It's I read it this morning right before I recorded, and it just resonated with me. Throw away the idea that you will always be happy after serious healing has taken place. Low points are natural, and they do not mean you've gone backwards. What shows your progress is not reacting to old triggers with the same intensity as before, and knowing not to judge yourself when your mood is turbulent or heavy. Guys, what he's saying is, find a pause in the negative, in the steps back, in the perceived negative. Create awareness around it. And from that awareness, create a shift. We can only do better if we become aware of it. Know that these steps backwards will happen, but they are meant to propel us forward. They are meant to help us grow. They're meant to help us evolve. They're meant to help us step into who we truly are, who we want to be. And you deserve all the happiness in the world. You deserve all the flow, all the positivity, all the healing, all the joy, all the abundance in the entire world. You deserve it. You're worthy of it. But you have to believe it. You have to believe it. And you're the only one that can shift that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I hope that you begin to bring in a little more awareness to those perceived steps back and use them to catapult your movement forward. That's my wish for you. So, as always, if you have a moment, leave a review. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, leave a comment. If you're on YouTube, head over to Instagram, Natural Wellness Tips, say hello, chat with me, and make sure you head over to the website and join the membership. I am super excited to watch it grow. It's been fun to build over the last month, and I can't wait to see where we are in 3 months, 6 months, a year. It's going to be amazing. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And until next time on the podcast, namaste.